Samantha Colosimo Testa is on the Utica Common Council, where term limits have been extended to 12 years, so 3 terms for mayor. And there's a movement now, and they've gone through and signed petitions. There is a movement now underway to get it placed back on the ballot so the people can vote. Should it be a two-term, 8-year limit or 12? Now, they've done everything they need to do to get it on the ballot, but it could still not make it on this November's ballot. Samantha, good morning.
Good morning.
Do you fear that the work that these guys have done is going to be for naught?
Well, here's the issue. I mean, this has been like an ongoing battle for the past year. I mean, and the reason is you ever hear that saying, you can't fight City Hall? So here's the issue. So these guys went out, got an additional 1,000 signatures. They were certified. The next step was they were to provide legislation to the Common Council. When we got the legislation, our choice was either to A, vote it up and make it a law, which would bring it back 8 years, or defeat it. Or you could take no action at all, and then you would have to wait the 60 days before you could submit the second round petition.
Yeah.
So the way the interpretation around, listen, I'm not an attorney by any means, but any law can be interpreted any way you read it, and I think that a court would have to make that determination. So once we defeated that legislation, I believe that it could start the second round of process to get those petitions in, and that's kind of the way that everybody that was getting the petitions felt, because you've had now 2,500 people sign a petition stating that they want to vote on term limits. The only way that this now is not going to get to the ballot is if someone from the city challenges these petitions. So that's actually the next step, because the city clerk will certify the second round of petitions, and then it's going to be whether or not the city chooses to challenge them based on the fact that they believe that 60-day process has to follow through. And then it's going to have to go to court.
I think that'd be pretty unpopular to challenge this, but I would not be surprised if it's challenged.
Guys, I got to be honest with you. I mean, nothing really surprises me anymore, and this is what it's come down to. And I've passed hundreds of pieces of legislation throughout my career. I've put stuff on the ballot. I've helped get petitions, and this is probably one of the most difficult things that we've had to do in order just to get the people to try and vote on something.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest issue here. And it's like, what are you afraid of? You know what I mean? And that's what we've come down to is whether or not that they think that this can get to the ballot. And I hope that a judge, that if they saw that this many people signed a petition, and we would meet that deadline by submitting those petitions in by the September 6th deadline. The only issue is that they're saying that we have to wait till September 26th. So we missed the window by like 13.
I can't believe. Days. I mean, this is just blatantly. There's no. I'm speechless about it, because you would expect. Well, I would do that, but I'd look really bad, so I'm not going to do that. No, this mayor's office is willing. It's like, we don't care. We don't care. We're going to do whatever we want anyway. Here's a question. It is going to get on the ballot. I mean, they're going to have the signatures, whether it gets on this November's ballot or the next ballot. It's going to end up a vote. Now, if it got on next year's ballot and the mayor's running for a re-election and it's moved back to 8, would he be grandfathered in? And I've asked this question.
I couldn't give you
Nobody
the answer
knows.
today. Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten to that point. I mean, if it was the other way around and the Corporation Council was working for me, I'd be able to provide you for that answer. But unfortunately, I don't have a team of attorneys looking into this and figuring out whether or not they could do it. But I'll tell you what's interesting about this, and this process, I'm very intimate with it for the fact that I've tried to submit legislation to get it on the ballot myself and voted on it last year. But what I found interesting was they put us on a timeline for this year. So they're saying that we have to wait the 60 days. Well, last year they said that they were on that same timeline. But if they got those additional 500 signatures, instead of actually making it a law, they could have put it on the ballot this year, because there was no time.
Right.
They weren't against any time to put it on the ballot in this November. So now we had to get an additional 1,000 signatures just to put it on the ballot when they could have did the same thing last year.
Okay.
And I thought it was interesting that we actually, it was a difficult process just to try and get it on the table, because trust me, people were lobbying all over the place and trying to get people to not lay it on the table. And that was a big accomplishment, getting that defeated, because I mean, again, the Common Council, is not in a position to challenge anybody.
Right.
Especially their job is to either vote on it or not vote on it, and they chose to take an action on it, which obviously they believe they can get us to the next step in order to get the petitions certified and then on the ballot in November.
Okay. Going to...
Well, I said I thought my quote was a little dramatic with this is like the start of the war, but I mean, at the time, being involved in this, it really isn't, because, it's seriously been a battle, and, this next step is really critical in finding out whether or not we can get it. But right. I think what the interesting point is that if the city administration challenges it, it's just not going to be good, because that's really...
Going to look bad.
The only thing that's the only thing that they can do. If they choose not to challenge it and let this go through, then it's going on the ballot in November.
I am a firm believer that in 2018, optics doesn't matter. What things look like and seem like don't matter.
Well,
anymore.
And it seems like the mayor feels the same way.
Yeah.
Well, don't get me wrong. It's deeply involved. There was a lot of people that signed those petitions last year that were city employees. Don't leave the comptroller out of this either. So the mayor, the comptroller. They want another 4 years because they thought that they could get the they can do the best job.
Bill Morehouse says that if the mayor can't run, he's running. So
God bless these guys. You're talking about people. You want to talk about term limits? Why they're so important? You've had people that have been in these positions for 20 to 30 years. It's not like they've been in in office for 6 or 7 years. These people have been politicians for 20 to 30 years. It's absurd. Although it's not, they are at term limits and they run for different office and, they are elected to these positions. But, sometimes it is nice to have fresh faces, and that's the issue that we have here.
All right.
But somebody sent me a message and they wanted to remind that they'll have a petition drive next to the North Utica Senior Center today to sign the term limit.
All right. They need 404 signatures to get this next step underway. So.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have too much of an issue.
I don't think so. All right, Samantha, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Samantha Colosimo Testa on the Common Council. In fairness, I think people who've been doing and involved in politics, they're in and then they're out of office and they're in. Like Bill Morehouse has been involved, but then he's back in. I don't think we should lose sight to the fact that community service, and Bill Morehouse is not a guy that's doing it for the money. Community doing that public service and working for local government should be thought of as a positive, and you're doing your part to better your community.
Yeah,
so I don't think we should look down on that. We kind of do today for some reason. Because people get in there and they rape the system and they stay and they get great benefits.
It's at the point where we tell people don't get into it.
Don't get into it. Don't stay in it. I don't understand.